Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the garden. It is a wonderfully crisp morning here. I have just brewed a fresh pot of chamomile tea, and I am sitting out here by the old potting bench, watching the early mist gently lift off the lawn. Can you smell it? That rich, dark, earthy scent of damp soil and morning dew. There is truly nothing quite like this peaceful hour before the world wakes up. Today, I want you to pull up a comfortable chair, wrap your hands around a warm mug, and dream with me. We are going to talk about planting for our future. Imagine pouring your heart, your precious weekends, and your hard-earned money into a beautiful home renovation, only for it all to vanish into thin air the moment the first winter frost arrives. For so many beginner gardeners, this is precisely what happens every year. In May, we rush to the big box stores, swept up in spring fever. We load our carts with vibrant annuals like petunias and marigolds, and we spend hours carefully tucking them into the dirt. But by November, they are dead, pulled up, and tossed into the compost pile. My friends, we have been renting our gardens. If you want to garden intelligently and build a space that feels like a true sanctuary, we need to stop renting and start investing. We need to plant perennials. Here is my clear promise to you today. I am going to teach you how to plant once and enjoy the beautiful rewards for years, and in some cases, decades. By the end of our time together, you will know exactly which 7 beginner-friendly flowers are practically guaranteed to thrive, forgiving our little mistakes and returning year after year like old friends. Before we get our hands dirty, let us briefly talk about how a perennial works. Unlike annuals, which exhaust their entire life cycle in a single fleeting summer, perennials have a magnificent, magical survival strategy. As the bitter winter approaches, their green, leafy top growth gracefully dies back to the ground. But beneath the soil, tucked safely away from the freezing wind, their root systems remain very much alive, fast asleep. When the soil warms in the spring, they wake up and push through the earth, returning larger and stronger than the year before. From an energetic standpoint, a perennial is a compounding asset. A $10 plant purchased today will not only return next year, but it will physically expand. Soon, you can divide it and spread that beauty all over your yard. But before we bring these lovely blue-chip plants home, we must first lay the groundwork. A successful gardener, much like a wise investor, understands the local environment before making a deposit. We need to look at 3 things: our hardiness zones, our sunlight, and our precious soil. First, let us talk about the cold. The USDA Hardiness Zone Map is the golden rule by which we determine which plants will survive our local winters. The map is divided into zones based on your area's average lowest winter temperatures. When you look at a cute perennial at the nursery, its tag will list its zones, for example, zones 3 to 9. This means it can survive the freezing depths of zone 3 and the steamy summers up to zone 9. Please, do not gamble outside your zone, my friend. If you live in a chilly zone 4 and buy a tender zone 7 perennial, the winter freeze will sadly end its life, turning your investment back into an annual. Always check your zone first. Next, we must map our sunlight. Plants metabolize golden sunshine into energy. Starve a sun lover of light, and it will be too tired to bloom. Bake a delicate shade lover in the afternoon sun, and its leaves will scorch. Full sun means an area receives 6 or more hours of direct, unfiltered sunlight. Part sun means 3 to 6 hours, ideally gentle morning light with cooling afternoon shade. Full shade means less than 3 hours. Here is a little pro tip: do not guess. Spend one relaxing Saturday just watching the shadows move. Go outside at 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., and 6 p.m. Take a few photos. You might be surprised by how the shadows from your house stretch across the lawn. Finally, we must lovingly tend to our soil. The earth is the soft bed where your plant's roots will sleep for the next decade. If you have heavy clay, it holds water tightly but can suffocate roots. If you have sandy soil, it drains incredibly fast but struggles to hold on to a drink. The beautiful universal fix for both is organic compost. I love running my hands through rich, crumbly compost. Adding a lovely dark layer to your beds improves drainage in clay and adds a wonderful sponge-like quality to sand. It is the best initial gift you can give your new plants. Now that our foundation is set, let us meet the magnificent 7. Our first beautiful investment is the coneflower or echinacea. Imagine a sturdy clump of dark green leaves hugging the spring soil. Then, by mid-July, it erupts into a spectacular display of massive, daisy-like flowers. The petals are a vibrant, velvety purple-pink, drooping gracefully from a spiky, burnt orange central cone that looks like a tiny, bristly hedgehog. Picture a bright orange monarch butterfly resting peacefully on that bloom in the afternoon sun. Echinacea is a North American native prairie plant, which means it has spent thousands of years learning to survive heat and drought. Coneflowers thrive in hardiness zones 3 through 9, and they demand full, blazing sun. When you plant them, dig a hole twice as wide as the nursery pot, but exactly the same depth. Coneflowers despise being planted too deep. They need space to breathe, so space them about 2 feet apart to let the gentle summer breezes keep their leaves dry and free of mildew. Give them a deep, long drink of water right after planting to settle the soil. During their first summer, water them deeply once a week, but after that, their deep taproots will largely take care of themselves. Here is a crucial beginner tip for your coneflowers. In late summer, put your clippers away. Stop snipping off the fading blooms. Allow those last flowers to dry out and form hard, black seed heads. These little dark cones look incredibly architectural against the winter snow, and more importantly, they provide a vital, natural winter food source for foraging songbirds, like the bright yellow goldfinches. Watching a finch happily peck at those seeds on a snowy morning is pure joy. Every 3 or 4 years, you can simply dig up the expanding clump, slice it in half, and multiply your wonderful investment. Our second reliable friend is the black-eyed Susan, specifically the gold stem variety. Imagine looking out at your yard as the deep greens of late summer begin to tire. Suddenly you see a massive, dense border of brilliant golden yellow flowers with stark, dark brown centres, practically illuminating the yard. They form a thick, happy carpet of gold. They are fiercely disease-resistant and bloom relentlessly from midsummer all the way until the first hard autumn frost bites the air. They love full sun and are wonderfully tolerant of thick clay soils. When you bring your black-eyed Susans home, loosen the soil nicely to a depth of about 1 foot. These sunny friends spread by underground stems, so loose soil helps them stretch their legs and colonize comfortably. Nestle them into the earth and apply a soft 2-inch blanket of shredded bark mulch around the base to keep weeds away. Just make sure to pull the mulch an inch back from the green stems so they don't rot. During the summer, you can snip off the tired blooms to keep the plant looking tidy. But honestly, this golden workhorse will just keep blooming anyway. As the years pass, Rudbeckia spreads outwards in a circle. Sometimes, the original centre of the clump gets a bit old and woody, creating a funny little donut effect in your garden bed. Do not worry. Every 3 years in early spring, just take your shovel, dig up the clump, compost that tired centre, and replant those vigorous, youthful outer rings. It is one of the easiest, most rewarding gardening tasks. Our third treasure is the daylily. The daylily is often whispered about by gardeners as the perfect perennial. Its botanical name, Hemerocalis, means beauty for a day. And it is true. Each delicate, trumpet-shaped bloom opens gracefully to the morning sun, glows beautifully all afternoon, and quietly fades by nightfall. But please, do not let that deter you. A single mature plant produces multiple tall stems, and each stem holds dozens of buds. A daylily will bloom continuously for weeks, providing a glorious, rolling display of colour. Their lovely, arching, grass-like green foliage looks like a soothing green fountain splashing over your garden borders. Daylilies are so impossibly tough. You will often buy them as bare roots, just a curious little cluster of fleshy potato-like tubers without any soil at all. Simply soak them in a bucket of tepid water for an hour before planting. When digging your hole, mound a little soft dirt in the centre. Drape those fleshy roots over the mound like a resting spider and gently cover them. The only golden rule here is depth. The spot where the roots meet the green leaves must be planted exactly 1 inch beneath the soil surface. To keep your daylilies looking pristine during the hot summer, just wander out with your morning coffee and practice dead leafing. Gently tug away any yellowing bottom leaves and snap off yesterday's wilted blooms to make a clean stage for today's new flowers. Over time, your single daylily fan will grow into a massive, lush clump. You can dig it up, gently pry the roots apart, and suddenly you will have enough plants to share with everyone on your entire street. Now, what if you have a garden draped in cool, quiet shadows? Enter our fourth plant, the magnificent hosta. Many beginners feel sad about the dark, shady corners beneath large trees, assuming nothing pretty will grow there. But imagine a serene woodland floor, carpeted in lush, overlapping tiers of massive, heart-shaped leaves. Some leaves are a deep, dusty blue, others are bright, cheerful apple green edged in creamy white. In midsummer, tall, slender stalks rise up, bearing delicate, pale lavender bells that hummingbirds simply adore. The hosta is the premier asset of the shade garden, capable of living peacefully in the same spot for 30 years or more. Hostas love rich, woodland-like soil. Mix a generous helping of leaf mould or compost into your planting hole to mimic the forest floor. The general rule for sunlight is lovely and simple. The lighter the leaf, the more gentle morning sun it can handle. But those stunning blue hostas need deep, cool shade to protect the delicate waxy coating that gives them their colour. In early spring, hostas are notoriously late to wake up. Do not panic if you don't see them in April. They are simply resting, waiting for the soil to feel warm and safe. Soon, tight little spikes of leaves will confidently push their way through the earth. The main challenge with our beautiful hostas is that slugs and snails find them absolutely delicious. To protect those giant leaves, always water right at the base of the plant to keep the foliage dry, and use a safe, organic iron phosphate slug bait. In the fall, after the first icy frost hits, hosta leaves will instantly collapse into a mushy, translucent pile. Be sure to clean this damp debris up and throw it away, as leaving it provides a cozy winter blanket for slug eggs. Tidy it up, and your hostas will sleep cleanly until spring. Our fifth plant arrives to save the day, just as the summer garden is feeling exhausted. Meet the autumn joy sedum. In June, it looks like a tidy, pale green dome of thick, succulent little leaves, almost like a cute broccoli head. But by late August, that dome flushes into a beautiful soft pink, and by late September, the entire plant turns a rich, rusty burgundy, absolutely humming with gentle bees gathering the final sweet nectar of the year. Sedum pays out its gorgeous dividends exactly when the rest of the garden is going to sleep. Because it stores water in its fleshy leaves, it is practically immune to drought. Sedum demands full sun and poor, well-draining soil. Please do not pamper it with rich fertilizer. Too much love will cause the heavy flower heads to lazily flop open in the center. In late May, when the plant is about 8 inches tall, you can try a wonderful advanced gardening trick called the Chelsea chop. Take your sharp pruning shears and confidently cut the entire top half of the plant right off. I know it feels terrifying to do this to a perfectly healthy plant, but it forces the sedum to branch out, resulting in a stocky, bushy, sturdy plant that will hold its heavy autumn blooms proudly upright against the autumn winds. When winter arrives, do not cut your sedum down. Let it stand. The dark, dried flower heads look like intricate, beautiful coral reefs when they are capped with a fresh layer of bright white snow. It is a stunning bit of winter architecture, and if you ever accidentally snap a fleshy stem off during the summer while weeding, don't throw it away. Just strip off the bottom leaves and stick that broken stem right into moist potting soil. In a few weeks, it will grow tiny roots and become a brand new free plant for your garden. Our sixth investment. If daylilies are the steady workhorses, the peony is the aristocratic royalty of the garden. Imagine a bushy dark green shrub absolutely weighed down by outrageously massive, fragrant, spherical blooms in late spring. The flowers are packed tightly with layers of impossibly soft, ruffled pink petals. You might see a few large black ants scurrying harmlessly across the tight, unopened buds in the background. The ultimate value of a peony is its lifespan. There are peonies growing on old, abandoned farmsteads that have survived for over a century. Plant one today, and your grandchildren might enjoy the exact same blooms. Because a peony will live in your garden for generations, you must choose its home carefully. It deeply hates being moved once it settles in. Dig a wide, deep hole in full sun and mix in plenty of rich compost. Now, here is the most important rule I will teach you today. Peonies grow from thick, tuberous roots that have little red buds called eyes on top. These little red eyes must be planted exactly 1.5 to 2 inches below the soil surface, not a millimeter deeper. If you bury them too deep, the plant will grow lovely green leaves, but it will stubbornly refuse to ever give you a single flower. In the spring, as those fat, round flower buds swell, you will see ants marching all over them. Please, put the pesticide away. The peony bud naturally secretes a sweet, sticky nectar just for the ants. In return for the feast, the ants act as little bodyguards, biting away any other bugs that might try to eat the delicate petals. It is a beautiful, peaceful partnership. When the massive blooms finally fade, snip them off so the plant looks tidy. In the fall, cut the whole bush right down to the soil line and throw the leaves in the trash, not the compost. This completely prevents any ugly fungal blights from surviving the winter. Then, just let your beautiful peonies sleep. Our final plant in the magnificent 7 is the incredibly tough yarrow. Picture a blazing, hot midsummer afternoon. The soil looks dry and cracked, but rising triumphantly above it are sturdy green stems bearing broad, flat, plate-like clusters of tightly packed, tiny flowers. They bloom in vivid, sun-baked shades of paprika red, goldenrod, and soft terracotta. Beneath the blooms, the foliage is soft, delicate, and feathery, like little green fern fronds. When you brush your hands against these leaves, they release a deep, spicy herbal aroma that we love, but that deer and rabbits find absolutely repulsive. Yarrow is a plant born for neglect. Do not pamper your yarrow. It demands absolute, unrelenting full sun, and the poorest, driest, fastest draining soil you have. If you give yarrow rich compost and extra water, it will grow too fast, get lazy, and flop right onto the ground. Let it struggle just a little bit. When the first big flush of summer flowers begins to look brown and tired, take your hedge clippers and simply shear the top third of the plant entirely off. This neat little haircut will stimulate a lovely second wave of blooms for late summer. Yarrow loves to spread out through underground runners, creating a soft, ferny ground cover. To keep it vigorous and politely stop it from overtaking its neighbours, simply dig it up every 2 or 3 years in the spring. Just like our black-eyed Susans, discard the woody old centre and replant the energetic young outer sections. It is wonderfully resilient and will bounce back without a complaint. Now that you have your 7 perennial assets, let us talk about arranging them like a master designer. When you look at a garden bed, you must think in 3 dimensions. You are arranging a beautiful botanical choir. In the front row, right along the garden edge, place your shortest plants, like our charming hostas in the shade, or the autumn joy sedum in the sun. In the middle row, plant your colourful fillers that can look over the front edge, our black-eyed Susans, Coneflowers, and Daylilies. Finally, the back row is reserved for tall, structural anchors, like the grand peony, providing a solid green backdrop for the bright colours in front of it. The biggest mistake we make as beginners is buying everything on one Saturday in May because it all looks pretty at the store. The result is a garden that looks incredible for 3 weeks and then sits there, plain and green, until October. We want succession of bloom, a garden that tag teams the seasons. Watch how our 7 plants perform this dance. In mid-spring, the peony erupts, dominating the view. As it fades to a green bush, the daylilies and yarrows step into the spotlight. By high summer, the coneflowers and Susans are shouting with joy. And just as they quiet down, the sedum flushes deep red for autumn. It is a continuous, deeply satisfying show, all year long. Let your colour choices set the mood. If you plant colours that sit next to each other on the colour wheel, like the bright yellow of black-eyed Susans, right beside the soft orange of your daylilies, you create a wonderfully warm, harmonious, relaxing feeling. But if you want a garden that pops with exciting drama, use complementary opposites. Try planting the golden yellow rudbeckia right up against the deep, velvety purple of the echinacea. Because they are opposites, they make each other look incredibly vivid, vibrating with summer energy. Even with these tough-as-nails plants, we must avoid a few beginner traps. The first is killing with kindness through overwatering. Many of us love the ritual of standing with the hose every single evening, lightly sprinkling the garden for 5 minutes. But this is dangerous. Shallow, frequent watering tricks the roots into staying right at the hot surface of the soil, making them fragile and thirsty. Instead, we want to water deeply and heavily, just once a week. Give them a slow, generous soak at the base. This mimics a beautiful, heavy rainstorm and trains the roots to dive deep into the cool earth, naturally drought-proofing your garden. The second trap is the dreaded mulch volcano. Mulch is a wonderful thing. A soft 2-inch layer of shredded bark regulates the soil temperature and quietly breaks down into organic food. But please, do not pile it high against the stems of your plants like a little mountain. This traps wet moisture right against the plant's delicate crown, causing it to rot, and invites mice to build nests in the damp bark. Your mulch should always look like a flat, neat donut, leaving an inch of bare dirt around the stems to breathe. Our third trap is a lack of patience. When you buy a perennial in a small black nursery pot, it looks so tiny and lonely. It is deeply tempting to plant them very close together to make the bed look instantly full. But remember, we are investing for the future. 3 years from now, those little plants will have tripled in size. If planted too close, they will choke each other, fighting for light and air. Read the tag. Trust the mature spread size, and learn to tolerate the empty mulch spaces in year 1. They will fill in beautifully by year 3. As the crisp autumn air settles in and the days grow short, you might wonder how to put your garden to bed. The lovely truth is, perennials do all the heavy lifting themselves. They naturally pull all their sugars and starches down into their roots, creating a biological antifreeze. Your only job is to help keep things clean. For fleshy plants like hostas and peonies, do the big chop. Cut the mushy leaves down to the dirt and throw them away. But for sturdy natives like coneflowers and sedum, leave the stiff skeletons standing tall. Those hollow, dried stems provide warm winter nesting spaces for tiny native solitary bees. A question I hear often is, Mira, do I need to aggressively fertilize my perennials every year? The answer is a joyful no. Unlike those exhausted annuals that need constant feeding, most established perennials are wonderfully self-sufficient. In fact, hitting them with strong synthetic blue fertilizers will just make them grow weak, floppy leaves instead of flowers. Just spread a gentle 1-inch layer of dark compost around them every spring. That is all the natural, slow-release food they will ever need. Another common question. Can I grow these perennials in pots on my patio? Yes, you can, but with one important caveat. When a plant is safely in the ground, the great earth insulates its roots from freezing. In a pot, the roots are entirely exposed to the icy winter air. As a rule of thumb, if you want a perennial to survive the winter outdoors in a pot, it needs to be incredibly tough, rated for at least 2 zones colder than where you actually live. If you live in Zone 5, only use rugged Zone 3 plants in your winter containers. Finally, people ask, my older daylilies and hostas seem to be shrinking and blooming less. What did I do wrong? You did absolutely nothing wrong, my friend. The plants are simply crowded. Over the years, their roots have become so densely tangled that the middle of the plant is starving for water. It is simply nature's way of asking for a little haircut. Dig the clump up, lovingly divide it into smaller, fresh sections, and replant them in soft soil. You will restore their vigour instantly. Gardening, at its core, is an exercise in hope and deep, abiding patience. When we shift our hearts away from the fleeting gratification of disposable annuals and look toward the enduring legacy of a perennial garden, we change the way we interact with the earth. By choosing rugged, friendly plants like the coneflower, the black-eyed Susan, the daylily, the hosta, the sedum, the peony, and the yarrow, you are building a living portfolio that will truly appreciate in value. You dig the holes and provide the early love, and nature happily takes over the long-term management. Year after year, you will watch the winter snow melt away, completely confident in the knowledge that sleeping beneath the cold earth, your green friends are preparing to wake up and bloom for you once again. Thank you so much for having tea with me today. I would love to know, what is resting out in your garden right now? Tell me in the comments below. If you enjoyed our peaceful chat, please subscribe for more. Happy growing, my friends.